I'm Dana Perino, and this is Perino on Politics. Welcome to a special edition of Perino on Politics. It's not so much politics. This is the podcast where I call up my smart friends and I say, what the heck is going on? Explain this to me. Help me understand. What am I missing, etc. So I invited Chris Giancarlo, and he is a new friend of mine. He is an expert and very knowledgeable about cryptocurrency. I am not. And as you've seen on America's Newsroom, I am never afraid to ask the dumb questions because what I found out is, one, a lot of people have the same questions. So cryptocurrency is something that I guess came on my radar 10 years ago or so, I guess. And I was interested. I have a curious mind. I like to look into things. So I started looking into it. I started listening to podcasts. I would read articles about it. I go to this one conference every year where they had crypto experts and they were explaining it to us. And what I found is that someone would explain it to me. And about 15 minutes later, I would have no idea what they said. Like nothing sticks. And then and this got really, really big. And then the market went down for crypto. And then I thought, okay, well, fine. Then I'm so glad that I don't have to learn about this anymore because it's over. But now it's back, and it's back in a big way. And it's not leaving us anytime soon. So Chris is going to introduce himself in just a moment, but he has graciously agreed to come on here and to answer the dumbest of the crypto questions. Like, we're not going to get into like deep in the weeds on the crypto questions. We might do that in the future if I basically can understand it. But his challenge is to help me and the people that I asked to send me some dumb questions to answer those, and we'll try to do it in our regular format here. So, Chris, first of all, tell us who you are and how you are the crypto dad.
Well, I'll tell you what, the first thing I'm just discovered I am is one of your newest friends, and I'm delighted delighted by that. I served as the 13th chairman of the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission, a somewhat obscure agency, but in fact the first agency, not just in the United States, but in the world, to come up with a comprehensive regulatory regime for any type of crypto, and that was in the case of Bitcoin futures. And it's something... some work I did in 2017, and that market has worked remarkably well. And we'll talk about that as we go along. But my background is as a practicing lawyer and as a businessman. I helped create a firm on Wall Street called GFI Group, which we took public back in the 2000s. And then I went into government, and today I'm an advisor to corporations and boards, and also with the firm of Wilkie Farr and Gallagher.
Okay, and a great American. Great to have you here.
Thank you.
So I think one of the problems for me in crypto, I'm a communications type person. Crypto sounds like a scam to me. Why is it called crypto?
Yeah, it's a great question because crypto is based on the Greek word for hidden. So it probably isn't a great word to start with. But let's talk about what crypto is before we even talk about whether it's a scam or whether it's worth investing in. Let's not even think about it for a few minutes as an investment opportunity. What is it at heart? And what I would say in one sentence, crypto is the internet doing to finance and banking and money itself what the internet has already done to communications, to information, to shopping, to transportation, to entertainment. What is that? It is moving things of value onto the internet in the same way the first wave of the internet moved information onto the internet. Okay. So at heart, what crypto is a new architecture of finance. So let's talk about what the current architecture of finance, to talk about how it's changed. For the last 400 years or so in human history, in fact, only for the last 400 years, have we recorded things of value, whether they be the title to our automobile, the title to our home, or our lifelong savings, on the balance sheet of an individual government registry or corporation. Okay, up until 400 years ago, from the dawn of human history, everything you owned you kept in your possession, and that was the single indication that it was yours and not somebody else. That changed in the 1600s when the Bank of Amsterdam said, you know what, you're going to go down to Venice and do some trading, Mr. Shopkeeper or Miss Shopkeeper. Why don't you put your Dutch guilders in our basement, and we'll give you a banknote. And when you go down to Venice, you can trade the banknote for credit, and then trade down there. And today, 90% of things of value are basically IOUs from financial institutions.
Even like Venmo.
Even like Venmo. Venmo is a modern overlay. One of your staffers just said it's a Band-Aid for the creaky old system. That's exactly right. It looks really sleek on the outside. Underneath it, though, is a highly friction-based system, the system I'm describing to you, the system where value is recorded as IOUs. If you've got $1,000 in a checking account, there's no stack of $100 bills in the bank vault. It's an IOU from them.
Unless you're my friend Jeannie, who she keeps everything in cash.
Okay.
But that's her.
Well, that's one of the 10%. 10% of money is in cash. 90% of it are IOUs. Whatever I've managed to save up for my retirement with Fidelity is not stacks of $100 bills. It's an IOU from Fidelity. So the architecture of money today, the architecture of things of value today, is we record them with somebody else. And if that somebody else disappears, runs away with the money, or goes bankrupt, you've lost your things of value. Now, there may be insurance. The government may step in and provide, but that's somebody else now stepping in to make up that obligation. You've effectively lost your things of value. That's the architecture today. That's 90% of the way the world moves. And when you want to move value around the world, that one institution that you have the IOU from has got to trade that to another institution that's willing to give you an IOU in return for that. And it costs the world between 1% to 2% of its GDP just to move things of value around the world because they've got to be transferred from one institution to another institution. Now,
because just for fees, and it takes
fees
time and money,
validation. You know, when you write a check, it's not just passing over the check. They've got to know who you were, where you bank, how much money's in your bank. There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of cost involved, and there's a lot of what's called latency or slowness involved.
Okay.
If you wanted to get $5,000 from here to London, and you went to your bank, you'd be lucky if it's there in 2 or 3 days. If you want to get it to Singapore, as many if you want to get to the Philippines, as many Filipinos living in America do, it's the largest corridor in the world for remittances. It takes them days, and it can cost them as much as 17% of their money because of this creaky old system that says the Bank of America has got to credit the Bank of the Philippines, which has got to credit the local bank in their area. And the system is slow and creaky. Okay. So that's the backdrop to now we're talking about crypto. Once upon a time, if you wanted to send information, written information, you would go to the Postal Service, you would go to UPS, you go to FedEx, and all of those packages would be hand delivered. Today, you send an email and it's there in a second.
It's a good example of, I was talking today about when I first started on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., the boss I worked for on Capitol Hill was the chairman of the Energy and Power Subcommittee. And we had fax machines, but also there were bike messengers everywhere. And they were taking documents from Capitol Hill to K Street, where the lobbyists were, and then K Street to somebody's house. And now there's no bike messengers. And that all happened. I watched that in real time. I was like, oh, wow, the bike messengers aren't necessary anymore because now we have not only fax machines, but email.
So that's the perfect backdrop. Imagine if you could move value as quickly as you send an email or a text message. If we can send a photograph to Australia in half a second to somebody's grandmother there, why does it take a week to get the money there? What if we could send money?
But if I send money on Venmo to my dance teacher, he gets it right away.
He does, and that's a pretty good system. It's got a lot of limitations. Try sending $20,000.
Okay,
Try sending,
that's going to be an expensive dance lesson if we do that.
It sure would. So what crypto is, it's a shorthand. It's not a great phrase. We started out by admitting that. But it's basically an architecture of moving value that says instead of recording value on the balance sheet of Fidelity or a county registry, why don't we record it on the internet?
Okay, so a question. How can somebody do that, though, and say, well, now this is a value and this is money? How can I could just come up with it and say, okay, well, now this is now worth money.
So what crypto says is, in order to record value on the internet, we need a certain set of protocols. Okay. Just as when we went to record information, we came up with HTML, HTTP. Those are different protocols for organizing websites, for sending email.
Like .com, .org.
Exactly.
Okay.
So what crypto is basically systems for recording value on the internet. And what Bitcoin is, you hear these different names, Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, XRP. They're different protocols for recording value on the internet. And they all have different properties and they work in different ways.
Is it all worth the same?
Okay, now we're talking about the value proposition.
Well, maybe
let's leave that aside for a couple more minutes.
Okay.
We are going to get to that, right?
Yeah.
But you're hitting the nail on the head. Because they all do different things, they all have different value propositions. Just as HTML does something very different than HTTP and .com and .org. They all have different significance on what's called the first wave of the Internet of Information. The first wave of the Internet was all about recording information, whether it's a website, whether it's an email, whether it's a text message, using this wonderful network called the Internet. It's a network of networks, okay? Now we're moving to the next phase of the Internet, an Internet where we're going beyond recording information. We're now recording value.
How?
In order to record value, we need different protocols. And we need different systems of organization. The first wave of the Internet, that Internet of Information, was organized by volunteers.
Yes.
It was universities and others that wrote those initial protocols. It's very, it was a magical moment or a decade in time or decades in time. It was incredible. This time around, to organize people to record value, we've got to find a way to reward them. And the people that are recording value are called miners. They're in a sense, every time a transaction takes place, a new block to this internet invention called the blockchain.
Yes, we got to talk about that.
Okay, so what is that? Well, remember I said Fidelity records your value on their balance sheet as an IOU. But their balance sheet doesn't talk to BlackRock's balance sheet or another asset manager's balance sheet. The notion of the blockchain is, what if all these balance sheets could talk to each other's balance sheets and validate, oh, you've got Chris Giancarlo's money and he's going to buy a copy of Dana's new book. We want to make sure that gets to Amazon for it. So we're going to connect these two transactions. So what the blockchain is linking together all these balance sheets. So it becomes one giant, in a sense, balance sheet in the cloud.
We'll be right back with more Perino on politics. Let me stop you right there with one question. And I remember being in Wyoming visiting my family. And my uncle, Matt, ranches. My family homesteaded in the late 1800s. Beautiful. And it's a beautiful big cattle ranch. And his whole life he wanted this Mustang sort of muscle car, right? So later in his life, now he gets one. So I'm visiting. And I said, oh my gosh, that's amazing. Where do you take it? Well, I can't. Because I don't have the title. Because he's been waiting for the title for 3 months. And I told someone that story and they said, if they used blockchain,
absolutely,
they could do that. So why can't he use blockchain to change the title?
Because title registries for automobiles is a monopoly of the state.
Okay.
The state's not ready to give up those monopolies yet because with it go the jobs of running those registries. But I think we will reach a time where it becomes clear that people want immediate access to their things of value. They don't want to go to the state or the county registry and say, where's my title for the ending time? And they can say, oh, we're not open on Mondays because it's a national holiday. Come back on Tuesday.
So that is something that could be disrupted.
Totally.
Okay. Another question.
Titles to your home can be disrupted.
Well, also, have you ever tried to rent an apartment? Well, you probably own your apartment. But renting an apartment in the city, you basically have to create like a whole mortgage. And then, let's say you move 8 months later, you got to do it again.
You're right.
It's ridiculous. So in blockchain, if I put all my information on blockchain, it's like saving it in my passwords in my iPhone wallet.
Well, if I were to say yes, your audience is going to go, oh, I'm so afraid to put my information online.
I don't think so. Do you think people are? I'm not. I don't think the majority of people are. And I always say to people, I'm actually for electronic voting.
Yeah.
Because I'm sending money back and forth to my dance teacher. I send my money to Mom. I said, oh, Angie, my sister, thank you for doing that for me. I'm like, I'm not afraid to do all of that with my money. And it's secure.
Right. Well, Dana, this is where this word crypto comes back in.
Okay.
Because the beauty of this system is we can get to a point where you can actually put not only your things of value, but also the things of value about you personally, your social security number,
Right.
your identity.
And that could be in the blockchain?
And it could be encrypted. The reason why it's crypto is because the possibility of encrypting it.
Okay.
This whole system wouldn't work if, in fact, your things of value were accessible to people who you do not wish to have access to. And so the beauty of this is to be able to encrypt that information.
All right. I'm afraid that we might be getting a little bit ahead. So I want to go back to a friend who sent this question. Is Bitcoin a tangible currency?
No.
Okay. How does Bitcoin translate to regular money? Let me give you an example. I go to a hair salon on the Upper East Side. There's an ATM. And this was during COVID, like coming out of COVID. People wanted to be able to get money right out of the salon so that they could pay cash for tips. And I noticed one day, going to the ATM machine, there was an option, checking, savings, and Bitcoin. And I was like, what do you mean? Like if I hit Bitcoin, if I had a Bitcoin account, which I don't,
right.
Let's say you hit Bitcoin and then dollars come out?
So I'm not familiar with that ATM, but if you are able to get dollars out of it, great. If you're able to get coins out of it, great. But you're not going to be able to get a physical Bitcoin out of it. What you would be able to do is if you've got a digital wallet on your phone, which is an app you can download, you would actually be able to upload to your wallet Bitcoin. So when you ask me if it's tangible, it's not tangible. I can touch it with my fingers, but I can view it in a digital wallet.
Okay. Who decides how much Bitcoin is or a crypto is worth?
The market.
Okay. And who guarantees?
So let's talk about value now.
Okay.
So remember I said it's a new architecture, but one of the unique parts about this wave of the internet is, unlike the first wave, which we said was put together by volunteers, this one is actually put by people that are rewarded in Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is not only a blockchain system of recording value, it's actually a reward system for working on it. And the reward system is these things called Bitcoins. Now, they, like any good reward system, they have value, because if you couldn't redeem them for something, then what value would they have? The things you can mostly redeem them for is dollars. You can convert them into dollars. Now, there are some merchants. I understand there's some Ferrari dealers that will sell you a Ferrari. There may be things that are more small value items, but for the most part, they're priced in dollars. Economists will tell you, there are three definitions of money: a unit of account. I'll go through each one of these: a means of exchange and a source of value, a store of value. A unit of account is how you price things. When we go in the supermarket in America, things are priced in dollars. But when you go to the supermarket in France, they're priced in euros. So it's a pricing system. Second thing is it's a means of payment. We pay for things in dollars in this country. If we go to France, we pay in euros. Bitcoin is actually not terribly good for either of those two things. You can't use it to buy a lot of stuff, and you don't find many things priced in Bitcoins. But it's actually turned into a very good store of value. Actually, compared to the dollar, it's probably a better store of value.
And that's how people become Bitcoin millionaires?
Yes. And why is that? Because Bitcoin has programmed into its very DNA that there cannot be more than 21 million Bitcoin ever created.
Who decided that?
The original designers of it. And every new Bitcoin that comes out has that into its DNA. So the only way you could change that is to own more than 50% of all the Bitcoin in the world to reprogram it. And it's not impossible. It's, as a practical matter, it's almost impossible. And so it's a fixed supply commodity, unlike the dollar, which continues to be printed. One out of every $4.
Yes, explain this, because I know that a lot of the interest in creating the Bitcoin, or for people who actually understand it, it's that our government has printed too much money, which has made it gone down in value.
Correct.
And so they are worried that the dollar will continue to weaken.
Right.
And they want to have something of value.
Exactly.
So they decided that these Bitcoin people, that's where to put it.
So traditionally, that was the role that gold played. The reason why governments early in their trajectory backed their money with gold is it made people understand there was a limited amount, and therefore it maintained its value. Once a country goes off a gold standard and they can just print as many of them as they want, the currency loses value. I remember as a child, we would visit Italy and we would laugh because to buy a cup of coffee costs you 10,000 lira for a cup of coffee.
I just got back from Argentina, and a T-shirt
exactly.
is $85,000 or 85,000 pesos. Right?
Well, and why is that? Because they print so many of them after it becomes worthless. The sad fact is, in the last 5 years, 1 out of every $4 was created. So something that would have, if you $100 then is worth $75 today. Compare that against something like Bitcoin, where you cannot make more of it. And, we see this in commodity markets all the time. Oil, which you can only produce so much in a given period of time, that price has been very volatile. And yet when demand goes up, you can produce more of it. In the case of Bitcoin, when demand goes up, you can't produce more of it. So the only one thing can happen is the price goes up.
So this, my friend asked, where can you get it?
There are a number of exchanges. Coinbase,
can anybody just go on and say, I'm opening up
open an account and transfer, have your bank transfer cash and tell them you want to buy Bitcoin.
And if you wanted to just dabble in it and maybe start, how much cash dollars would you have to put into opening a Bitcoin account? Or Ethereum or whatever account?
There's an old adage that it's not about timing the market, it's time in the market. I think that applies to crypto as much as I've seen of anything. It's very, very volatile. It was 107 because of its limited supply. Whenever you have a fixed supply commodity, and we see this in things like gold and others, when demand goes up, there's only one reaction that the market can have, and that is price goes up. When demand goes down, only one, because you can't produce more, you can't produce less. The only thing that can happen is price movement. But what I would say to an audience, to your question, Dana, what can people do to dabble in it? What I would say is get in and go slowly. Let it take its time.
What do you need, like $100, $1,000, $100,000?
Well, what's interesting about this asset, because it's digital and not analog, you can fractionalize it to an extent. What does that mean? You can buy tenths of a percentage. You can buy hundredths. So you can buy any amount. You don't have to go and buy a full Bitcoin, which is priced at, I don't know, $95,000 right now. You could buy $1,000. You can buy $100. The fact of the matter is, over the last decade, it's been the best performing asset in the market. Now, that doesn't mean any given year it's a good one, but over time it has been.
So when it went down a lot over about a year ago or so,
right?
And there was one young man who works here who turned green. And he was like, it's over, but it wasn't over. It came back.
Of course.
Of course?
I shouldn't say of course.
Okay.
When it's coming back, remember, it's priced in dollars. It's not priced in pesos. It's not priced in bananas. It's priced in dollars. So is the price of Bitcoin what's rising, or is it the price of dollar that's falling? And I'll give you an example. I mentioned this on your show 3 weeks ago. In 2018, the average price of an American home was about $266,000, and it would have cost you over 400 Bitcoin. Today, that same American average priced home is now over $440,000 and would cost you less than 5 Bitcoin. Is the dollar becoming weaker, or is Bitcoin becoming stronger? Once you do a comparison, because when you're saying what's the price, you're pricing it in dollars. So it's dollars, Bitcoin. One is going down and one is going up, and it's a combination of both.
Let's take another quick break, and we'll be right back with more Perino on politics. What about my read on some things? I'm sure I'm probably wrong on this, but my gut instinct is to say, yes, there's that great young man who works here at Fox who I know is a lovely person and is not a terrorist or a bad guy. But it does seem that you read these stories that a lot of bad things are happening by people paying for things in Bitcoin.
Yeah. Well, so, I ran a federal regulatory agency. A lot of bad things happen with people using diamonds. A lot of bad things happen with people using good old American cash. In fact, every gangster movie I watch, they show up with suitcases of $100 bills in it, not crypto. Crypto has been used for illicit purposes. It's one of the reasons.
Is it easier?
Well, it's both easier to move. It's also easier to track. Oh. If you ask law enforcement, they would rather the case, the crime be committed with crypto than the suitcase full of $100 bills, because it's going to trace the crypto. Now, it may be traced back to North Korea, where we can't do anything about it, but we know exactly where it went.
It came from. Why does it require so much electricity?
Because creating anything requires electricity. Actually, operating banks and all those ATM machines uses a heck of a lot of electricity. It takes electricity to run this system of value. Now, when it's fully deployed, however, it's going to be a lot cheaper to move money and value around the world than under an existing system, where you've got to operate branch banks and you've got personnel involved and you've got all that validation to do and all of those transactions to record. A blockchain is going to be much simpler, much less expensive to operate, and give people much greater access 24/7. You're not going to have to wait to Monday morning and maybe Tuesday on a 3-day weekend to get access to your money. You're going to have access 24/7 all the time.
Is it El Salvador or Ecuador that El Salvador? So El Salvador decided we're going to go all in on Bitcoin. Is it only Bitcoin? I mean, they're doing government business in in crypto.
Yeah. So
is it Bitcoin?
They're a dual currency zone, Bitcoin, and they did that when Bitcoin was less than $20,000. Their treasury has benefited fivefold from that decision.
But what can they spend that on?
Again, let's remember that the money has three factors. One is purchasing. One is ability to do transactions in it. Bitcoin is still an early stage and still a not great transaction medium. It's a much better store of value. Now, there are other cryptos that are actually much better for actually buying things. And we're seeing now the rise of things called stablecoins. We're seeing other...
What's that mean? Why do you, if crypto's great, why do you need a stablecoin?
So what a stablecoin does, it's sort of like an American Express traveler's check. It has a stable value because behind it, the proprietor of the system is holding dollars. So for every $100 in stablecoins, there's $100 of backing it. And yet it has all the digital properties of being able to go around the world in seconds at low cost with low friction. So it has the best.
So like you're on business in Egypt and you need more money in order to take a client out to dinner, your headquarters can get you a so-called traveler's check, but it's digital.
Right. And then in Egypt, you can then convert it into the Egyptian currency and then spend it there. But the ability to get it from New York to Egypt is going to be in seconds, as opposed to today, try to get a wire transfer to Cairo.
So here's a good question I had from someone. What is the typical profile of a crypto investor, and will that change? So a lot of people I know that listen to this are moms or people, well, they may be more into the politics of it, but I'm thinking of my friend in particular who sent me this note. She's a mom of 2 girls. She's married. Should she invest in crypto? I know you're not here to give investment advice, but like a single mom of 2, she's married, but like a single mom of 2 kids, would you say you should definitely get in this market?
What I would say is treat it like what's known as an alternative investment. Watches, cars, oil paintings. Investment advisors will tell you, a couple of percentages of your portfolio in alternative investments. I think BlackRock now are advising clients to have 1% to 2% in crypto. I think that's fair advice.
Aren't all the big banks doing this now?
They're also, so there's a lot changed in Washington just in the last few weeks. Trump has come in on a very pro-crypto agenda. The big thing that's changed is 6 months to 9 months ago, a bank president would have been safe to tell you, we're not getting involved in crypto, it's too dangerous. That's completely reversed. Today, any traditional financial institution that doesn't have a crypto strategy is in threat of actually reputation risk because they're not looking forward. Elections have consequences. The dramatic consequence here is that traditional finance now is suddenly realizing. So in the last few months, or last few weeks, I've met with the CEOs of some of New York's most prominent financial institutions. Every one of them says, I need a crypto strategy. There's reputation risk to their positions as CEO if their firms are not now forward-looking.
It's interesting. So the banks think they need a crypto strategy. Do all of us need a crypto strategy?
Well, so we're all in different places in our lives, right? If you're close to retirement or in retirement, I think one has to be very cautious, right? Okay. Especially with the volatility. If you do not put money into crypto that you're going to need in 6 months.
I mean, I do know somebody who put all the money into crypto and then had a really bad year last year, and now it feels better.
But they had a good decade.
I don't know. I guess.
Okay, so
I guess, but also then I think, is everyone going to get rich except for me and my friends who don't understand this?
Oh, I can't predict who's going to get rich. I still think the old advice is the best advice. A balanced portfolio. If you're younger, you take more risk. If you're further on down the line, closer to retirement, keep it balanced.
How can the government protect people from scams?
I tell you, one thing, Dana. The future is going to be internet based. Just as information, the future of value is going to be. And I think what's been driving Bitcoin at heart, it's the same thing that drove Tesla stock 5 years ago. It wasn't that you knew Tesla would be the winner in electronic vehicles, but you believed the future transportation was electric, and therefore you invest in Tesla stock.
So, do Elon Musk's money managers have some of his money in crypto?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So if you believe the future of value is going to be internet-based as opposed to the old way of balance sheet-based, then the way to express that view of the future
it
is
is
to
really
own crypto.
hard to get your head around. And we've got to go in a second. It's really hard to get your head around always knowing just like money is green, money looks like $1, money is this is how it looks. And then to have like some guys on the internet got together and decided something is worth value and now you can buy things with it is very hard. I think that's the hurdle that my mind is having a trouble with.
Right. Well, I think we all had, trouble as the world moves more and more to digital systems. I mean, I still have an SLR camera in my
No, I mean,
cupboard,
it's true.
right?
I mean, like, look, I work in a business like you and I having this conversation right now is only possible because of the disruption of the media business.
Exactly.
And I love it. So I hope you'll come back another time.
Done. Make it happen. Let's do it.
Because we'll have more dumb questions.
Oh, they weren't dumb at all. They were great. It was fun doing
Well,
this.
you know what? It's funny. I bet that some of these money managers at the big banks might listen to this and learn something. Questions they're afraid to ask.
Yeah.
Chris Giancarlo, what's your book?
Crypto Dad, The Fight for the Future of Money.
Okay. Encourage everybody to get it, and we'll have you back.
Great. Thanks, Dana.
Thanks, everyone. Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcast Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.